TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Settle. Hard days, no way with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for the Midday Market Report with Mr. Smooth Turn himself, too, Sean Alvarez, at Smooth Turn 2, at Wagertalk, talking Saratoga, talking Del Mar. The summer is winding down. We got a nice card this weekend. No Hurricane Debbie or Tropical Storm Debbie to worry about there. Next week, the Travis at Saratoga, and the following week at Del Mar, the Pacific Coast, I think Sean said. So a lot of great racing still to come here before everyone goes crazy for football. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in football. So the world stops. Everyone forgets about MLB and CFL and horses and all that other stuff. But I'll pump the brakes for now. So first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsorships and partners. WagerWire. If you haven't downloaded the app, head on over to Google Play. Download it. It's free. I promise you, it will be one of the most used apps moving forward. Trust me on that. And of course, Viva Tequila Seltzer. Shout out to CT Betts, his family, and the rest of that team. If you haven't tried one, shame on you. Tell him JD from ECSI sent you. Shout out to Noah Frank, the best producer in the land, I promise you. Without further ado, the star of this show, Mr. Sean Alvarez. What's up, Sean?
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, you mentioned CT Betts and Vivas. I believe CT's in Vegas right now, and our good friend Kelly in Vegas is too. So hopefully they brought an extra suitcase just to pack the Vivas, and it's going to be a fun weekend. And, you mentioned football. I love football. I love betting on football. I got to go see our good friend Jeff Benson over at Circa to sign up for the millions in the Survivor. But, when it comes down to it, when we're really just dotting the I's and crossing the T's, I like to lean on what I believe I'm good at, and that's horse racing. So always look forward to talking some four-legged animals running in an oval with you.
Well, it's so funny, Sean, and I don't want to diverse here. We have some exactas and tries, obviously, to cash here this weekend, but it is comical. In my lanes, we're coming up on almost 10 full years here, and it's just the circle, meaning, once you get through the NBA playoffs and the championships, the Stanley Cups, and you get to that all-star break, everyone is ready to go Tap City. For us, we couldn't be hotter. 13-1 our last 14 in baseball. We're on a 33-11-2 our last 46 games. It's just by grinding. Each day is different, but most people see week 0 and Labor Day weekend, week 1, and it's like they forget about everything else. They forget what got you to the dance, Sean.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you just hit it on the head. No matter what sport you're good at, people like you and me and a lot of our other good friends that are in this industry or niche, if you will, part of the grind and part of the puzzle, if you will, is what excites us. What we really enjoy doing is coming up with that puzzle and figuring out the answer of, who's going to win and how to bet it kind of thing. A lot of the amateur bettors, if you will, they just love watching the games, love, having a couple dollars on it. But, for me and you, I love just waking up early, and the first thing I like to do is just get to my desktop, look at what games are on, look at, what horse racing's happening that weekend. And like you said, put my nose down to the grind and really kind of grind through it, because honestly, when you're up, like you said, 13-1 in baseball, and you're putting in the work and the effort, and it's not necessarily just, the luck of what you bet on. It really is just that much more fruitful and enjoyable to be right, if you will, to go through a 13-1 stretch. That's very impressive. And I know the work that you and your team do. So hats off to you. And I know that puts a big smile on your face to see that, in your, whether it's your Excel sheet or your Circa Sports account, if you will.
Talked about Hurricane Debbie, Tropical Storm Debbie. It was 300 miles east to us, so I had a food truck festival on Saturday in Cape Cod, about 20 minutes down the road from me. Light rain, balmy all morning. Then the sun came out, and OMG, it was hotter than Haiti. For you, being a professional and an expert in the horses, there's nothing worse than getting up in the morning. What's on the turf? What's not on the turf? Trying to handicap the races in advance to get the cards out to your clients, and then to sit and watch each race, and then to try to figure out, is speed holding? Is it a off the pace? Are the closers coming? Walk us through the process, Sean, because I know it's endless hours of work.
Yeah, so I mean, especially at Saratoga this year specifically, it's become a lot more difficult because, if they're not necessarily supposed to have a lot of rain, or they think maybe the rain's going to miss them, they'll actually keep a lot of these late races on the turf, kind of fingers crossed and hoping, that they can keep them on the turf. But the real big problem with that is if a sequence starts, so usually a pick 4, a pick 5, or a pick 6 that I really like to bet on, if a pick 5 starts in one race, and then after that race goes off, they take races off the turf, it becomes an all race. So it doesn't matter who you had. It's really just the combinations that you had. So if you have 4 of the horses in that race, you're 4X at that point. It doesn't matter who wins that race. And really the problem with that is just trying to make a profit. And, when you're, like you said, when I'm putting my card out for my subscribers early in the morning, let's say it's at, let's go East Coast time. So if the races start at 1, I'm putting my card out at, 10, 11 in the morning, and 6 hours later, they take the races off the card. That really puts a hinder on our pick 5 tickets that, that we're trying to make. So if I can give kind of a hint or a suggestion at the listeners that are playing these races, is I've been saying this since day one being on your show. If you're on Twitter, follow my buddy Marshall Sterling at G1 Handicapping. He is easily the best. I don't want to call him the wrong name, but meteorologist, if you will. He runs diagrams and whatnot on weather forecasts, and he's spot on. He's really good. He gave out one today, so it kind of gives you an idea of what you might have ahead of you. Yesterday, I put a pass in for my subscribers. I'm not going to charge them or charge them a day on a card that I knew was going to come off the turf. And what do you know? By race 6, race 7, the 2 late races were taken off the turf. So, it's something that you kind of have to guess at. You mentioned it on, the dirt track being speed favoring, or I mentioned, races being taken off the turf. You almost kind of have to look ahead of it, because I'm not trying to knock NYRA for what they're doing and whatnot, but let's be real. Horse racing and horse handicappers are the last person that they're taking care of on what they're doing based on taking the races off the turf late. So you gotta take care of yourself, keep an eye on yourself, and make sure that you're not putting in, $200 pick 5s when, the last 2 races are all races. You're basically playing a pick 3 at a 50-cent wager with a probably a bigger takeout. So, you don't have to be a meteorologist. You don't have to always know what's going on, but if there's something in the forecast that Naira is not necessarily leaning on, it may be a good day to take the day off. Just because they're racing doesn't mean you have to play a pick 5 in the early and the late card. Doesn't mean you have to play win bets. Sometimes it's best to just take the day off, maybe watch the races, see how trainers and jockeys are going, and also see how the track is running for tomorrow. So it's not the worst thing in the world to say, hey, today's not my day. I know the weather is going to be in the forecast. Naira hasn't made a call yet. Let's take the day off.
And for me, listen, I grew up a dog guy. I never want to forget that, but I enjoy the horses. Now I'm a tote board guy. I follow the numbers like I do here in sports wagering here. And the horses are moved to the turf for a reason. I always remember, I don't want the horse that goes out by 3 or 4 lengths in a turf race, because 9 out of 10 times you won't find him on the ticket come the final turn, and of course at the wire. So there's a specialty to these quote-unquote turf horses. And so when they move them to the dirt, isn't that quote-unquote specialty gone now?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's kind of the other half of the equation, is that, if you have a 12-horse race that is going to be competitive on the turf, and they get rained off and taken off, you're probably now looking at a 4-horse, 5-horse race with all these scratches, because that trainer knows that he wants his horse on the turf. He doesn't want to race on a wet track. And then on top of that, you also get main track only entrance. So those horses won't even get in the field unless that race is taken from the turf to the dirt. So yeah, there's a lot of things to handicap and to go over. And, on top of that, it's, do you have enough time to go through that, then to get it out to my subscribers in time for them to be able to bet it? So yeah, I mean, on top of that, there's just a lot of different things that go through your mind when a race gets taken from the turf to the dirt. It's a lot easier when it's just they go from a fast main dirt track to a sloppy dirt track. You're going to get a lot less scratches, and most of the time, some of these horses have some kind of experience on a wet track, so you have a little bit more experience to pull from. You have an idea of what's going to happen. And yeah, just to go back on it, it just pulls my hair out, when I love 2 horses, and those are the only 2 horses that scratch in a turf race, and now we're on the dirt, and my opinion just completely goes out the window. So yeah, it's definitely a little frustrating. I wish we can control Mother Nature, but as we see in football, baseball, and all kinds of different sports events, you can't always trust what Mother Nature's going to do based on our handicapping analysis.
And I have put it on social media, Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it today, a bazillion times. Mother Nature is undefeated and will stay undefeated, especially in my baseball handicaps. I do watch the weather a lot because I don't want to base my analysis and invest some money on a game totally based on quote unquote that starting pitcher, where whether there's a delay, let's say an hour delay, and we're creatures of habit. If it's a 7:10 start, the pitcher goes out to the bullpen at 6:35, starts at 6:40, and is loose at 6:58. Well, that hour, I now don't know whether, quote unquote, he's a mucker or not. He's been taken out of his routine. What happens if we played the first inning and then there's an hour and a half delay? Well, now it's a bullpen game. Nah, what you did is perfect. I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'm not burning my bankroll, and neither are you. So hats off to you, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, horses go through the same thing. They have specific race day routines that they go through. And when they get scratched out of it, it's going back to the trainer going, okay, how is this horse doing? Where do I enter him next? Because maybe that race day routine took a little bit out of him. Maybe he understands that it's a race, and he gets, the horse gets mentally charged up, and, is kind of, like we always say, kind of full of himself. He's got that race day energy, and, it's not always easy for horses to turn that off and then to turn it back on the next day or 3 days later, kind of like we are, humans and horses kind of act the same. We get geared up for something and we're all excited about it, and it gets canceled. you take a while to calm down, then you try to get pumped up for the next day that it's going to happen. So it's definitely one of those things where like you said, you're not going to want to waste your bankroll on it, and you kind of got to be smart about it. Just because they're racing doesn't mean you have to fire your normal bankroll at a specific card that you don't necessarily have the same opinion on than when you woke up or last night or 2 days ago when you first started handicapping the card.
And I'll close with this. How many times have you been sitting at the Circa or sitting at South Point and seen someone run to the window, and then if you watch 10 minutes later, they didn't walk back to cash the ticket? So it's better to be safe than sorry. So 2 races to break down. We're going to start with you bringing your front stage, of course. Saratoga race 10, my friend.
Yeah, so I specifically chose race 10. It's the Grade 1 Alabama going a mile and a quarter on the dirt for 3-year-old fillies. I actually did like race 9, the Grade 2 Lake Placid, but that's going 2 turns on the turf. And if you saw Saratoga yesterday, they got a lot of rain late in the card. Should be a little bit more on the dry side today, but we may get a little bit more rain on Saturday as well. So I don't want to go over a race that might be rained off the turf. So we go to the Grade 1 Alabama, and I've said it before. I don't like just sitting here and picking the chalk as my top pick. I like to get a little price to at least like on top. But there's a lot to like about the number 7 Candied at 7-5. Manny Franco rides. Todd Pletcher's the trainer. We're in a pretty good race in the CCA Oaks last time out, which was a Grade 1 at Saratoga. And this other race that he ran at Saratoga was actually when he broke his maiden back last year on August the 20th. So he's raced twice at Saratoga. We've gone over it before. It's the graveyard of champions for a reason. Horses either love or hate the track. Also, there's a lot of quality fillies and colts that are going to race at Saratoga year in and year out. But if you look at what he did at Monmouth, he chased slow fractions 2 starts back in the Lady Secret, and he went on to win by 4 lengths. And the second place horse, Honor D Lady, came back and won her next start out. So it really gives a kind of a push up to that horse's form. And all he did was run a good race behind who? Torpedo Anna, who's going to run in the Grade 1 Travers against the boys next weekend. So you can't really knock what she did last time out. She won a really good race at Monmouth. And she has, it could be a sloppy track, and she has wet track form. She's by sire by Candy Ride. Candy Ride, as we used to say, could have run on Pacific Coast Highway if he wanted. He could have run won on the turf. He won on the dirt. He could have won on the synthetic if he wanted to. So the wet track doesn't necessarily bother me there. And then I go to who I really like. Again, I've talked about it before. We get Flavian Pratt running for another Todd Pletcher horse in the 6 Miss Justify by Justify, who won the Preakness Justify, mind you, on a sloppy track. So she's got, if you will, a wet mutter type horse. A little bit of form underneath her that she can kind of jump up if it is a sloppy track. She won a good race in an ungraded stakes race on this Saratoga track. So she's got that form. She's known to be able to set the lead if she wants to, if it's slow enough up top. And she's also been able to sit behind the pace. She was in a really good spot last time out and actually got shuffled back into 3 lengths into a 5th spot before jumping up, being ridden by Flavian Pratt. And now Flavian jumps on again. So I think there's a lot to like about the 6 Miss Justify at 6-1. The other horse I liked that had a little bit of a sloppy track underneath her is the 2 Chatalas at 8-1 by Gunrunner. Gunrunner is also by Candy Ride. Gunrunner won on a wet track. Candy Ride won on a wet track, like I talked about it before. So again, if this track gets a little bit of weather, gets a little bit of moisture going into tomorrow, I do think that this is a horse that really could be involved at 8-1. And now you get Frankie Dettori, who is one of the best jockeys that really came from across seas, did really well at places like Ascot, at big races like Ascot, and then came over to the United States and kind of just picked up where he left off. I believe this is his kind of swan song as far as his race riding career. I believe he's going to retire at the end of the year. Thought he was going to retire at the end of last year. But you get a Mark Glatt horse training really well, should be up and near the front end. And again, if this comes to a sloppy track, this is a horse that should be on or near the lead. And when we get sloppy tracks, it really plays to those horses that like to set the pace. So I think this horse could take a big step up. Probably going to need a step up from the Indiana Oaks last time out in the Grade 3. But again, you know, if the track kind of plays to a sloppy track, it may just hit this filly right between the eyes. And a horse that I really kind of like at a big old price is the 8 Neon Icon at 15-1. Luis Saez takes the reins. I don't really like what she did last time out, but again, it's an Indiana Grand, not necessarily a track that should hold form to a track like Saratoga. This horse is by Arrowgate. Arrowgate again got a lot of wet track pedigree in his pedigree, so should transfer well to what he could do. He ran a really good race in at Churchill 2 starts back on a wet track, which was her biggest Beyer speed figure. So if you're a speed figure type of player, she is going to need a big jump up to be involved, especially on the win end. But again, I've talked about it week in and week out. I really like, big old prices that I think can clunk up to at least round out our exactas. And 15-1 by Arrowgate with Luis Saez. I think this horse is not someone we want to leave off our exacta ticket at that big old price.
So you said the magic words, so I will basically ask you 2 questions. If there was an outright, who would that be, first or second? And then, of course, what you're looking at for your exacta here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I do think that the 7 Candied, and she is my top pick. She is the horse to beat, but her odds are 7-5. I wouldn't necessarily say, recommend anybody to play her on the win end. And then you look at Miss Justify at 6-1. You can either take 7-5 or 6-1. Yeah, Candy's the horse to beat, but the reason she's the horse to beat is really just the race that she ran at Monmouth with that 99 Beyer speed figure. Yeah, she ran an 89 Beyer speed figure last time out in the CCA Oaks, but if you look at Miss Justify, the last 2 starts is an 87 and an 86. That's only 2 and 3 speed figures off of what Candy did last time out. And so, I don't think 2 or 3 points warrants a 7-5 or a 6-1. So if it's me, if somebody asks me, hey, I'm just going to play a win bet, it's going to be on the 6 Miss Justify at 6-1.
Okay. And your exacta?
Yeah. So the 7's the horse to beat. The 6 is my win bet, if you will. So I'm just going to go 6-7 on top over 2-3. 6, 7, 8, and that only costs $8. I've got prices underneath. Again, I do like Miss Justify to win, but even if Candied wins at 7-5, or let's say she goes off at 6 or even money, if we get, I don't necessarily think even if Miss Justify goes off at 4-1, that's going to pay very well. But we've got big old prices underneath at 8-1 and a 15-1 underneath. So even if that chalk wins, I think that our exacta could pay at least $15 to $18 if we can get some kind of price underneath. So again, that's 6-7 on top over 2-3, 6-7-8. And for $1, it costs $8 to punch.
$1 punches. And then again, obviously, if the 7 runs off the ticket and you catch the 6 with one of your bigger prices, now we're cooking with Crisco.
Absolutely.
Del Mar race 8, sir.
Yeah, no rain in the forecast at Del Mar. I always say, if I can come back in a second life, I'm going to be a weatherman at Del Mar because I can just put 76 sunny with a small chance of a marine layer and then just go surfing and play golf and get paid for it. But we're going to talk about a couple horses that we've talked about before, and one of them is the horse to beat, I Scream, You Scream, at 8-1, and breaking from the 1 post with Hector Barrios trained by Phil D'Amato. But this horse is going to be more of the pace presence, that, if you will. And what I like about the horse is he is going to be that pace presence. He doesn't need any quick fractions to run into. But if you look at the course configuration at Del Mar, for them to run a mile and an eighth from what we're going to run here, they actually have a mid shoot. They're going to run from the back, and it's not necessarily close to that first turn, but they're actually going to go quote unquote 3 turns. And if Hector Barrios and Ice Cream You Scream miss the break even just a little bit, he's either going to have to rush up, take a little bit of her energy away, or he may get shuffled back. Now, she has run on from the back before. She sat just off the pace going 1 turn to break her maiden victory at Santa Anita. And she did the same thing going 1 turn in her next start out. So she can sit off the pace, but I don't think that is what she wants to do. I think she wants to be on or at least near the lead. And when you look at a price like 8-5, if she stumbles at all, and I'm not necessarily banking on her stumbling, you kind of want a bigger price at that point. If she's not on the lead or kind of setting her own pace, I don't like the 8-5 anymore. I do think that 100% she's the horse to beat. But let's go back to, I don't mean to harp on the same number, but the 6 Medoro at 5-1. If you go back to what Ice Cream You Scream did in her best race that I think she ran, was an optional claimer in that 6 furlong race at Santa Anita 2 starts back. She was ridden by Antonio Fresu. I think he is by far the best jockey in Southern California right now, with Flavian up at Saratoga. And who's riding the 6 Medoro? No, it's going to be Antonio Fresu. So I like the fact that he chose to ride this filly by honor code. She ran a pretty good race on this turf course in the Grade 2 San Clemente handicap. She did run a third place effort behind Ice Cream You Scream. But if you look at what Ice Cream You Scream did in that race, was just set the pace her own way. Now, can she do that tomorrow? Absolutely. But I do think there's just other speed in this race. And I think that the 6 Medoro does have a bigger closing kick. And she's not going to be too far back. And like I talked about in the Saratoga race, Ice Cream You Scream is 8-5, Medoro's 5-1. So you tell me who I want to choose. I'm going to go with the leading jockey at Del Mar. I'm going to go with a horse that I think can turn the tables on the favorite, and I'm going to get much better of a price on that one. So my top pick is the 6 Medoro at 5-1, and then my second choice is who I think is going to actually be kind of giving the favorite fits, if you will, and that's the 3 Whiskey Decision at 5-2, ridden by Umberto Rispoli, trained by Arnold Delacour. She ran another good race. Now, granted, that was an ungraded stakes race in the Christina last time out, and it wasn't Delaware, not Del Mar. So, not necessarily a lot to like about that. But if you look at what she's done in those 2 races, she ran an 86 Beyer speed figure last time out, and 87 the race before. That 87 is actually the top Beyer speed figure of all these fillies in this race. So there is a lot to like about that. Her form does travel well. She went from Turfway Park to Churchill Downs to Delaware. Now she's over at Del Mar. So, she has been traveling around a lot. Her form has traveled well. And what her racing style is kind of up and near, just kind of breathing down those pace setters' neck and waiting for them to either fold or for Rispoli to kind of hit the button. And I really like what that trip style warrants, especially if our favorite, like I said, kind of uses a little bit too much to get to that front. So she should be there, just kind of waiting to see if she can kick on. So I don't love the 5-2. I'd like a little bit more as far as maybe 3-1, 7-2 as far as the win in goes. But I think she's definitely one that you have to include on your ticket. And I'm not going to talk too much about my third choice, the number 1, the favorite, Ice Cream You Scream at 8-5. I think this is a dangerous horse, especially breaking from that rail post in the number one post. If she breaks like a shot out of a cannon, I don't think very many people are going to want to go and challenge her on the lead, because then they're going to have to use up their fillies' energy. So I think this is a horse that I'm going to use defensively, because I've already punched holes in how I want to beat her. And then the price, we all know that I always kind of like to round out prices as far as my selections go. And that's going to be the number 5 Buchu at 12-1. What I really like about this horse is, look at the rider, Martin Garcia. Martin Garcia used to be the barn rider for Bob Baffert. So therefore, just inherently, he became one of the top riders, because he just got, some of the best riders, or some of the best jockeys. He was around during the, Justify days, the Bayern days, when Bob was winning stakes races and basically winning the trainer meet at Del Mar and Santa Anita. So I like the fact that this horse is being shipped to Santa Anita, or to Del Mar. Del Mar has a big ship and win program. So they get certain percentages on when the horse wins stakes races, when their last race was in another state. And this horse ran at Aqueduct. I never really know how to pronounce that. And unfortunately, I know not to ask you for pronunciations, Jeff. I don't mean to make a joke, but I always got to laugh when my anxiety goes up and make a joke about it. But I really like the fact that Martin Garcia is riding and coming over with this horse, and this horse is going to come flying late. Doesn't have a huge kick, but if a lot of people are scared about that one horse, that favorite that we've talked about, maybe we get a little bit of a heated pace up front, and that's only going to play to this filly's closing kick. And maybe this horse isn't going to win, but again, a 12-1 price is going to juice up our exacta, even if we happen to get that favorite 8-5 up top. So I'm going to round out my top pick with the 5 Buchu at 12-1.
Well, sir, I on Thursday do shows with Lou Finicaro, excuse me, and it's funny trying to pronunciate those names on the UFC cards, second to none. And so when it comes to Aqueduct with an A, Aqueduct, when in doubt, just say the big A and everyone's happy. How's that?
Yeah, that's definitely true, isn't it? Belmont's the big Sandy, right? I don't pay attention very much to the nicknames, but yeah, the big A, Aqueduct, BAQ, if you will, on the DRF form. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Exacta? You got an exacta in this race.
Man, yeah. When my anxiety goes, my mind starts going to all different things. So my exacta, again, we're going to play the 1 defensively up top. We're going to play my other two choices. So it's the 1-3-6 on top of the 1-3-4, 5 and 6. And for $1, that's going to cost 12. I do think that this is going to pay pretty decent. Again, we always get those college kids at Del Mar that love to play exactas. They love to play win bets. I don't mean to talk bad about anybody else, but they don't always know what they're doing. So in the horse racing community, we call that dead money. So exactas and win bets tend to pay pretty well at Del Mar. So again, that's 1-3-6 on top, 1-3-4, 5 and 6 on underneath, and for $1, it's going to cost $12 to punch.
Well, we obviously can't thank you enough here. Before we wrap up, I heard there's a pretty big race next weekend in Saratoga.
Yeah, next weekend's actually a big, just stakes races in general at Saratoga. We have the Grade 1 Travers, so I'm really looking forward to that. When the Travers is in town, if you will, they tend to bring a lot of other graded stakes races, and in 2 weeks we have the Pacific Classic. So it's New York's version of their big day or big weekend, followed by Del Mar's version of their big weekend. So a lot to look forward to, and I'm definitely excited to chat with you about those 2 weekends at Saratoga and Del Mar.
Well, it's always a pleasure to horse around, as we like to say here back east, talking some horses with you. Not enough people are out here trying to keep the horse racing industry alive. I know you TVG, FanDuel TV, etc., but it's a dying breed. It's like, for years and years and years doing shows with Pop DiBiase, may he rest in peace, Jamal, doing boxing, live boxing events. Jamal would go and be doing it. I always wanted to say, we're trying to bring boxing off the map, and when it comes to horse racing, we got to keep this damn industry alive, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's especially for, I would say the month or month and a half that we got to talk. I mean, I love Del Mar. I love Saratoga. I love the Triple Crown. And, there's a lot of other tracks that I really, really do enjoy. So, yeah, like you said, we got to, not we as in me and you, but who's ever running this industry, get out of your own way. Let's put the horses in the industry, first, and, make sure that this is, going to go on for 10, 20 more years, because what else are me and you going to talk about?
Jeffrey Benson and Circa, and with Matt Grissom coming into town next week, and that's a whole nother show. So the scroll has been going the whole time. Of course, we can find Sean on X at Smooth Turn 2. You can find all his work, obviously, at Wager Talk. But as we always close up the show here, the stage is yours to tell them what you got to offer this week and the rest of August and for the fall, I should say.
Yeah, so I'm over at wagertalk.com. It's wt.buzz/SA as a direct link to my page. Like I said, I usually say I've got Del Mar and Saratoga up each day that they run. But like I said, if they're rained off the turf at Saratoga, or I think that it's not a good card, not a good betting card, I'm not going to charge my subscribers a day or the price for the card. So I'll put a pass on the day, and every day that I feel like there's money to be made at Saratoga and Del Mar, head over to my page. Like I said, it's wt.buzz/SA. I'll have my cards up right around about 2 hours before post, and let's cash some tickets. There's exacta win tickets, pick 5 tickets, whatever suits your fancy. Hopefully we can cash some tickets, you and I together.
Well, again, we got some exciting racing, obviously, this weekend. Big races ahead next weekend and the following weekend. So, obviously, go follow Sean at Smooth Turn 2. Was going to be the closing bell at 2 o'clock. That is to be determined. Hopefully, Riley is okay. Shout out to Noah Frank, the best producer in the house. And, of course, to Mr. Sean Alvarez. We thank you all. Let's cash some tickets, and we'll see you at the Winners